All right, good evening. So, the title of this live is I Heart Conflict. So, I found out that I really come alive when two people are fighting. Not physically, not with fists, but with words and with energy. So I'm in this anti-fragile group. Um, Yeah, where is no rules. It's just letting. Um, there's just no rules because in Zoom, right, you can't physically actually hurt each other. So it's only words, and there is a safe word, right? Safe word is avocado. So if that's said, then everything stops. But if that hasn't been said, then everything is fair game, right? So that's the context of this Zoom. So we were in the after Zoom party when the official host left, and we're just hanging out, and then two people were just kind of going at it, just like, oh, and then other people were like, oh, I'm not here for that. It's like, oh, can you calm down? And I was like, actually, I'm all I'm all for just like sitting on the sideline and just like eating popcorn and just be like, hey, I thought this container was like no rules, right? Like this, anything is allowed. Then this is allowed. Like, why not just go all out? Like, where else in the world can you just go all out? Right? You can't do it in the bus station. You can't do it, like. And again, this is like fighting fair, right? Like, this is Zoom. Nobody can actually reach out and actually hurt anybody, right? This, again, my brain is giving me like, can words hurt and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, that is the part where we are emotional immortals. So I stayed after the call with one other person, and we kind of really got into that. It's like, what do you mean? Like, what is. Um, Again, my brain is short circuiting a little bit. It's like, careful. Like, so I'm going to take a breath. Let me backtrack a little bit, right? I love conflict. And I have noted this before. And it's not like I love like um pain and suffering and just like conflict. Like that's not what that is. I love conflict because it feels like home. That's what I grew up with, like mediating, trying to mediate between my parents and like so when there's conflict, when there's like fighting, it's just like I know what to do. And especially in the container I was in, it was just like, hey, this is a anything goes. We're allowing our natural self to just come out, and anybody could leave at any time, right? You could choose to end the Zoom and leave the group, leave the room. You can choose to say avocado. And as long as somebody hasn't said that, then just say your arguments. Get into a fight. Like, just let all that energy out. Because where else can you do that? And I even joked in the group, just like, actually, I would love to start a, like a verbal fight club. Like, just ding ding, like in the ring on the left side is, the person one, person two, like, okay, make it fair, like, the only real rules, right, is, well, the safe word. And the other rules would be we're not actually going to threaten somebody, physically. Like, no, I'm going to go over to your house and, like, you know, like, no, no, no. That's the only rules. No actual physical threats, um, or slander, or those kind of things, right? That's just silly. But beyond that, like, go ahead, go all out. Um, we live in a society that's just like gets all that utterly suppressed, and all that energy comes out sideways, right? Is passive aggressive and like my brain doesn't really want to fully spell out that path, um, but yeah, um, at some point I really do want to start this, just like a place where somebody can go and just like let it all like have a safe mediator there, and you can kind of set up the rules too. It could be like, hey, no ad hominem attacks or something. It's like, okay, that was the rules. Hey, ad hominem attack, pause, like, you know, take a break or something. Like, or if a safe word was called, like, you got somebody there who'll be like, hey, stop it, break it up, you know. But otherwise, you're just letting all that energy, just like having it being spoken and expressed, and we can't die in those situations. It's Zoom. It's voice. Like if you turned off the audio, it's just like they could be saying all these things, and you just be like, I can't. I don't even know what you're saying because you're muted. Like it's vibrations. So when we feel hurt by somebody's words, what in us is being hurt? So here is my um, explanation, my theory. Right? We have an egoic self. So we have a physical self, right? This is our physical body. That is mortal. That will get hurt. So we have this um, protective ego that is protecting our physical bodies. But then we have an emotional, symbolic self. And because it was mapped, it grew from the nervous system that was mortal. The ego also thinks it is mortal. So we act like somebody insulted us is an actual physical threat to our being. When we get our emotions hurt, we act like it's actually hurting us, but it's not. It's only hurting the part of us that was mortal, that was mapped over. So in order to become an emotional immortal, right, we see why does this thing insult us, but it doesn't insult someone else, right? The same words, somebody might have their attachment to their job, like they're very good stone cutter or whatever, and somebody was insulting them on like, oh, you're not really a good stone cutter, like you were terrible, whatever, and then they feel insulted, but so what, you know? So the reason I go to these anti-fragile groups is to allow anyone to attack me and see what actually gets through. Most things don't get through. It's like they can call me short, they can call me dumb, or like whatever. Like oh, look at that eye thing. Like yep, that's what it is. Just like what part of me have I not accepted? That's the part that will get me. But um, so those are actually the things I look for. That's why I go into there is to be triggered and then work backwards to see like which part of me is still mortal, which part of me still thinks it's mortal. My emotional self came from a physical self that was mortal. So when it was hurt, it was actually hurt. When my arm is hurt, it actually is hurt, like physically. I'm not saying we're physically immortal, that's absurd. But through Zoom, if somebody was muted, they can say anything and I wouldn't even know what they were saying. Like, they can't hurt me. This is not Harry Potter. There is no, like, a curse that can, get through the screen. The only exception is, like, a physical threat. So we're not doing that, right? I'm not threatening to go over to somebody's house. Like, no, 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 no. Okay? So that's the only line. Beyond that, we can't actually be harmed. But we act like a word hurting our emotions is an actual harm. And that's going to be a tricky point. Yeah, some people are going to feel like that harm is actual harm and it'll cause like That's the emotional immortal part. I do not blame anyone for my own feeling of hurt. So, so actually, emotional immortal, and absolute self responsibility. 100% responsibility for how I feel. And it does not matter about anyone else. As long as they haven't crossed the physical line and actually hurt me physically, or maybe say lies about me, like that's also kind of rather bad. Slander, I can see why that is problematic. So like maybe no slander and no physical threats. Like that's kind of the baseline. That's it's still kind of tricky. But even if somebody does slander me, or if like when my friend socially attacked me, like it happened. How I respond to it is my responsibility. I take responsibility for the actions I said to this person that caused them to project monster onto me. I know I used the word predator and prey, and I shouldn't have used those words, especially in anger, even as a metaphor, because that triggers all sorts of fears. Now I know. I will take responsibility for what is mine to take, including my own reactions and my hurt feelings. That is what makes me an emotional immortal. As long as my physical body is safe, no emotions can unalive me. I don't know if I have to say that way, but whatever. All right. So, um, that's what it means to be an emotional immortal. And imagine, right? An immortal acts differently in the world. An immortal, like, you can insult me, like, okay. Like, ow, you actually got me. Like, that was a good one, you know? Like, because I know I can't die. It's a Zoom call. Like, what could happen? You know, I could choke on water, but like, I can't, like, nothing through words, nothing through the screen. That's what it means to be an emotional immortal. Any feeling I feel, any hurt I feel by their words is gold. It's like the point, it points to the place in me that's still mortal, right? This ego self was modeled after a self that was mortal, that could be hurt. So when we felt emotional hurt, we actually think that we actually have been hurt. And in the past, when social belonging is was a matter of life and death, that could actually be true, right? But nowadays, a rejection does not hold that same amount of risk anymore. So nowadays, we are emotionally immortal, especially through a Zoom call, right? Completely. And I take full responsibility for my side of feeling hurt or not hurt or anxious or what. It doesn't, I don't blame anyone else. Okay, that's what it means to be an emotional immortal. And I just go there and I sit in any fire and they can try to like insult me and like that's part of the game. Like see if we can poke each other and see what if we can get a reaction. And so I go there just be like, come on, bring it. Like if you can, you know, because I am there to test my emotional immortality to see where I would still feel reaction. Like there's a lot of things that I'm no longer, you know, like somebody may call me short. It's like I am kind of short, you know. I'm 5'2". You know, here you go. If you didn't know, now you know, right? And I'm male, so it's extra uh, challenging the projections. But so it is. There it is. You know. If I felt sensitive about it, maybe I would feel certain, be like, oh, um, but I don't. So they can try to do that, and I just don't. I'm not. I don't have a reaction to it because have already accepted that part of me. Like I know, like my right eye, you know, is like a little wonky sometimes, and it's been pointed out twice, and and each time I was like, yep, that's just how it is, like genetics or whatever, like bad genetics, say yeah, yeah, and it 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 can't land when I fully accepted that part. That's what it means to be an emotional immortal, is to be stepping into the fire, and any part that can still be burnt and be hurt, and it's like, oh, there's a point. There's a part I need to accept. Like, okay, that's another part I need to accept. You know, like I'm not terribly great in social situations. So there's a band of like when I don't really know somebody, and then like there's a place that I feel really insecure in social situations, like really insecure, and I know that, and I don't make that anyone else's problem. I intentionally go to these places and sit there and have my mind frozen and be unable to like, and sometimes the room is really quiet, everyone else is quiet too, and I realize like, wait, they don't have anything else better to say either. I'm not the only one, but I'm just, you know giving myself a hard time. But anyways, um back to I heart conflict. And it's just funny because it's like it feels like home. This is the emotional intensity that I grew up with. And almost when there's not this intensity, the anxiety takes over, right? So here's the thing I have said and I've realized, like, anger overrides fear. Anger overrides fear. So when I'm angry, right, it does feel powerful and it overrides that fear, and then I have near absolute control over my anger from a childhood aha moment, like boom, like I could that gave me near absolute control over my anger. I simply don't lose control. So like I love going there. Because I know what to do. It makes me wonder if I should be a conflict mediator, right? Um, I don't know if I want to invite that much conflict into my life intentionally, Like when it comes to me, like great, like cool. But I do get a lot of energy from it and I can hold it and I can I mean I have the ability to hold it. Doesn't mean I need to. And I really only want to do it with other people who take radical self responsibility for their emotional reactions. They blame other people, it's just like, but then again, that's the ones who need conflict mediation. So it's pause, 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 pause. Just because it feels like home doesn't mean I need to just jump straight into it. Just because I can be good at it doesn't mean I need to do it. It's just a note. I'm just filing it in my memory. We'll see where that goes. We'll see where that goes. So, yeah, I love conflict because it feels like home. I know what to do. It gives me energy. It's very entertaining. I don't lose control. Um, and makes me realize like I can hold a container like the one I've been in. That is definitely in my future. Is Fight Club. Verbal Fight Club. Verbal, verbal, not physical, not physical. um, I don't know. Maybe like there's somewhere people can go to just say what they feel, and just to get it all out. It's just words. When we grow up with a parent who cannot handle anger, yes, it will escalate out of control. But you can, like, let's say one person is really, really angry and want to just, like, go all out, and the other person is just calm as a tree and just be like, yeah, okay, I want to hear you. Give it to me full. And the person's just a tree. And this person can just be like, you did this, you did this, I'm so angry, I think your thoughts are wrong, this is, And the other person's like, ooh, that's a lot of energy, cool, like, I'm sorry, like, like, alright, ah, it doesn't escalate out of control. And even if this person escalates and this person escalates, they both contain themselves so that they're not actually like throwing hands. Then they can both just get their energy out however they need to. And there's a limit. Eventually, you just loop back to the same arguments, like, cool. Um, what now? Like, let's just keep going. Like, it may take a while to get through it all, but then each side can just like list it off. Like, okay, we've said this, said this, said this, said this. At some point, when we loop, this side can write down the loops. Be like, okay, you already said that. This one's this loop. This one's this loop. Okay, and then you start making check marks. Just like then you start seeing the loops each side. I may have to do this. I may have to bring this. Um, I would say technology, but I hate that word. It feels so weird to say this technology. Um, but I'm very good in a fight, emotional fight, verbal fight. Like I don't lose control. This is the fire I was born in. This is literally my dragon's fire. Um, I've had my anger trained by a mom who can't really handle any sort of anger, so even the slightest anger in me, I notice it. I know it. Um, yeah, I look forward to having a place where I can just like literally just go all out. That doesn't happen very often. Um, People don't trigger that in me very often. That's kind of why my friend was such a oddity. Like, why did I keep getting in fights with you? Like, I don't usually. And then, anyways, ugh. Anyways, okay. Fights, verbal fights. Yeah, yeah, like just they can just keep going. They can keep looping. Be like, oh, we had that point already. That point, cool. That point, cool. Like, and the thing is, we want the other person to. It's vengeance. That's the problem. Like, we want them to like realize that they're wrong, and you'll never win that game. Because yes, maybe they've done things that are hurtful, but when you make them a monster, there is no winning because making somebody else a monster is the violent act. Then they can't change because if they change, they're admitting to your accusation. And then you could just accuse them back and be like, yeah, no, you're a monster for doing that. Like, and they were just accusing back and forth. But it's never the other person's fault for our own emotions. That's radical self responsibility. That is taking the power back. That's what it means to be an emotional immortal. It's never the other person's fault. Even when they do things that are classically Not good, like screaming and blaming and demeaning and mocking. Yes, yes, yes. Those are all classically bad, and in every social uh, court of public opinion, they would all say that that person is bad and they shouldn't do that. Cool. But if it's not physical, oh man, I'm gonna get into such trouble with that. And of course, if there's dependency like financial living situations, that's tricky. But there's plenty of things where this happens. And I'm not saying that's good or right. Ooh, this is real tricky, right? I don't even know where to lead with this. But to take back 100% responsibility is the only way out. And I'm speaking from a point of view where I was a child and there was no way out, and I just had to survive it. I just have had to adapt. Yes, there was no way out. So I learned to fully shield myself. I learned the absolute shielding, the sovereign silence. If you stop interacting, there is nothing the other side can do, short of reaching past the physical barrier and into the physical plane, and that's a different story, right? Physically, you know, yes, there are threats and withholdings, and yeah, it's all really terrible. And not saying that's right, but what do you do when that happens? I'm not saying that, if if walking down the street and you get held up at gunpoint, like, I'm not saying that's right, but like, what do you do in that situation? That money is not worth your life, and it's not worth fighting. Just give it. But if they want you to go somewhere, you run. Like no, like if they want more than money, you run, you fight. Like no, you don't go with. But if somebody holds you up by gunpoint and they only want your money, then okay, it's not worth your life. Like it's these kind of things, knowing what to do. Not saying it's right, but when it does happen in the world, what do we do? We become a tree, right? Stop interacting. Become just this pleasant persona. This is what I do with certain people that I know that they're not really safe to interact with. I'm just this pleasant salesperson persona. I'm just like, yep. I don't interact. I give the bare minimum. It's like, yeah, yeah, good day, yep. And I'm a tree, and whatever they say, I don't interact. That's how I handle it. And I am never a victim. Even though sometimes we are victims. Yes. As a kid, as a child, when the random things happen to us, yes. I had to acknowledge that when my friend attacked me on social media, like that was just the most socially violent thing that I've ever experienced in my adult life. Like no one has ever attacked me like that. I own the part where I pushed her to that point, but I'm not taking the violence of her calling me a monster. That's retribution. That's violence. That's name calling. That's just pure violence. Like, okay, you've taken your hurt, which I could have, like I do, apologize and claim responsibility for the words, but not this counter projection, not this attack. That I can't. That's a false accusation. That's a I understand you believe that, but that's a false accusation. Right? So I can only take what I can take, and that's why, like, uh, yeah, I was gonna say like, why cancel culture is so problematic because they're looking for monsters. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes that person is kind of terrible, right? Like, okay, cool. But to call that person a monster does not help. Yes, that person may be toxic. That person may be like you need to be careful around that person. But like to call somebody a monster just triples it. That adds violence on top of violence. That's vengeance. That's trying to do retribution. It does not work. It causes more harm because then that person, let's say it was a small infraction and then it got blown out of proportion. Now that person can't even admit to the first thing because then you would be admitting to the violence of the second thing, which is the accusation, right? So it just that is, whew. Pause, 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 pause. Whew, yeah, yeah. This is the classic um, case of projection, right? It's like it's your fault that I feel this way, and sometimes it kind of is. It kind of looks like that. It's really like no, in every court of social opinion, like yeah, that person is wrong for belittling the other person, mocking them, bullying them. Yeah, cool. Yes, yes, in every court of public opinion, that is wrong. But here on my side, here's how I take back the power. Here's the spell I use. Do not blame others for my own inability to handle their weakness. Somebody who's bullying, belittling, that is their weakness. That's their inability to contain their anger, defensiveness, their fear, their hurt. That's their weakness. It's not mine. But my inability to handle that when it comes to me, that is my own weakness. Right? So I take back the power and I figure out how I am going to respond from a place of calm and clarity to that verbal violence, right? And sometimes I respond by not responding. I stop all reaction, sovereign silence. Any reaction you get from me is just pure pleasantries or pure logistics, like, oh, um, hello, goodbye. Oh yeah, I'm heading out now. Like just pure basic pleasantries, and then I pretty much cut that person off energetically. That's how I do it. If somebody tries to bully me, I'll be like, really now, bye. Even if I'm walking by them, I engage with the bare minimum. They're gone. Emotionally, you know, that is how I've got pretty darn good boundaries. So, and because I have such good boundaries, I don't worry that I'm going to become a victim of somebody who is narcissistic or, um, you know, all sorts of things. Yes, when things start feeling bad, I'll take a look at it, I block it, and then I'm usually out of there pretty quickly. Um, cool. So I heart conflict, especially if I'm not involved in it. Um, yeah, no, I'm happy to be able to mediate. I don't really get pulled in. And here's the other thing too. Uh, earlier, when these two people were fighting verbally, and I started getting pulled in, and I started hearing one person's argument and be like, "Oh, that's wrong," and then I make that person wrong. The question is, can I still see that person as a friend, as a human, as a fraction of the infinite divine? Because the moment I lose that, game over, right? If I start dehumanizing one person or the other, game over. I'm no longer a neutral. I'm not. I don't have to be neutral about the argument, but I do have to hold the sanctity of each person as an infinite fraction of the divine. They are, this person is as um, valid in making their argument as this person is. I don't have to agree with the arguments, but I have to see the sanctity of each person. That no matter what they say, they're still a beautiful human being, a fraction of the infinite. Eat all of us. So, that's what I have to say about that. Ooh, okay. What's next? Should I pause here? I guess I'll pause here. All right. Well, um, yeah, that seems good for now. That's my little talk about why I love conflict and um, what it means to be an emotional immortal and taking back 100% responsibility. And I really want to start a verbal fight club where we can just go all out and then you have a safe word, you know, and then there's there could be a mediator there, be like a referee, be like, hey, fight fair, you know, it's like ad hominem attacks, you know, like nope, what else you got? Something like that. Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna pause it here then. I love you all. I will see you next time. Bye.